Martin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Why'd you come to me first?
Because you were looking at me.
Everyone's looking at you.
on my screen, Martin's the only one looking in my eyes. So.
All right, fair enough. I coach at Brumbo and Wrexham Ladies. Coached the academy football at Druids. Currently doing the sports coaching. Why are you laughing? Currently doing a sports coaching course in Glasgow University. And I've been coaching all about 5-6 years now.
Awesome. Andrew, do you want to introduce yourself?
So name's Andrew Higgins. I work for the Racecourse Community Foundation, which is basically Wrexham's foundation that we work in schools. The girls' academy, so I cover the under-8s, under-10s and the under-14s girls' academy. And I also coach rugby as well as coaching football. Been doing it for about 2 years.
Awesome. James, do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, my CV's not quite as long as everyone else's. I'm very new to coaching. I just started this year with Kevin United and under-9s, doing goalkeeper coaching and just looking to progress as much as I can, really. Do as many courses as I can. Give as much
experience playing, though, haven't you?
Well, I played a lot in cadets with the Air Training Corps. Represented, different levels with that, all the way up to representing North Wales. Played a lot of grassroots when I was younger. Played for Aquavia for about 3 years, and then Chirk then for up until full sizes.
Good old Mike day, eh?
Yeah, back in the day, like. And then after finishing playing football with the cadets, I was kind of disconnected from football in the community, like. So became a bit of a fan and not really involved. And then obviously the opportunity came up with Kevin United. I jumped at the chance, really. Eager to get involved and just want to progress, really.
Awesome. And if you don't know who I am, I don't know why you're watching this video, so I'm just going to skip my intro. Right, first question. I've asked about 25 people for the question, and about 23 have come back with the same question. What would you rather as a kid, grassroots or academy football?
Depends what you want out of football, doesn't it?
Because I'm very opinionated here, and I'm kind of not glad, but kind of against Chopper and Daniel here. And I know they would argue this against me, but I think until you're about the age of 11 or 12, academies shouldn't exist.
I think it's dependent on the individual.
Yeah, I think so.
If you're looking for a hobby and you want to keep it a hobby, just because you enjoy playing and you're not particularly too interested in taking it further, I think grassroots is exactly the right place for you. Some people may go to academies just because they enjoy playing and they want to play at a different level. But again, you could argue that grassroots is just as competitive in certain ways. I mean, it all depends on the individual and what they want, in my opinion.
Yeah, following on with what James says there about what the individual wants, I also believe from the ages of like 6, 7 to probably 12, 13, I think it's more what parents want as well. Because obviously they're the ones who are having to take them. A lot of parents live off what they wanted to do as a kid. If they weren't very good at football, they try living through their kid. So if their opportunity comes about for academy and stuff, usually the kids don't see any difference. They just want to be playing football. They want to be out and about with their mates, just kicking the ball about, playing games. But for the parents to have them involved in an academy, it's quite a big thing for them to progress. But as you said, it's if they want to get, when it goes to getting older, that's when the players can then make more decision. People decide more what they want. So if they want to take it more serious, then you can be part of an academy setup. But if you want to just play like I always played, I just played at grassroots level and I loved it. So that's my opinion on it.
Yeah. Go on.
From what I've got a 9-year-old obviously, and he just wants, that's all he wants is to play in academy football, and that's what he sort of drives him on. But I think I've been involved in academy, and there's a lot of there's really good work going on, and speaking from experience from the grassroots team I coach, we had two lads go in to an academy, and you could see it just lifted their confidence and it made them a much better player, not just football wise, just more confident in themselves. So it's sort of, there's I think it can, we can get academies sometimes, but they do a lot of good. But I think Ethan's got a good point there that maybe we do specialise too early in kids. That, it's just football. Maybe they should, in my opinion, and it is only my opinion. We're all opinionated, but I think they should be playing a lot more of the sports. I think Harry Maguire's come out and said he played a lot of rugby, he did a lot of long, athletics. The rugby made him strong. Athletics gave him the physical capability, and he played hockey as well. I couldn't really imagine him doing that, but apparently he did. But technically, that brought on his passing, he reckons. So I think the grassroots and academies, I think that there needs to be like a better link, because locally now the academy's got such good setups. I mean, when our boys have been to have just a game on Kevin's pitch, just one game, they love it. It's like, and they talk about it for ages. Even though we got smashed, it's such a good experience for them. Maybe once a month that a grassroots team goes into one of the academies and they get to experience it. But I certainly think it's not, again, it's only my own personal preference, but I don't see having under 8 teams like travelling around here, there, and everywhere. I think they should just be localised, to enjoy it with their mates. And then if they are of a talent, then maybe there should be like a training centre night for them. But I think academies do get knocked a bit, and grassroots get knocked. I think they could both work, side by side. Certainly done that with this season with our players, where we've worked. If one of the players did go to the academies, we were in constant communication with the academy coach to see how we could progress the player, because at the end of the day, it's all about them. It's not about us as coaches, what we win. It's not about the academy and what they win. It's about that individual at the end of the day. And if I can do anything to help him, then all the better. You're not going to remember a tournament. It'd be nice to remember a tournament when Ethan won it, but you're not going to remember that in 20 years' time. You'll remember that individual and seeing him in the street and how well he's done in life. Because I think we do need to focus a little bit more on not specialising them or zoning them into particular sports so young. We could have rugby players or whatever, or athletics or athletes even. So yeah, sorry, I'm rambling now.
I'm going to jump in there quickly following Martin's point. I fully agree with Martin saying about playing various sports. Like, so as I've mentioned on one of these we did, I worked out in America last year. And for my first 6 weeks, I worked with a club. And they literally play football from when was I out there? I started there in April, and they literally played it for about 8 weeks. And then that was their spring. Spring. And then in the summer, they'll do a different sport. They'll probably do baseball for 6 to 8 weeks. And then it'll come to the fall, and it's like American football season or gymnastics and stuff, because I was coaching boys and girls. I had equally the same amount of girls as boys. So they'd be doing different sports then, and then they'd have a couple, like maybe a month off at January, February, and then they'll come back and they start football again. And that's how they've got it out there, because as a lot of people see, they don't really have academies out there unless they are really, really good and you're playing like MLS or whatever. People don't really start off that young. They usually play at clubs or play at a good level, at club level. And then they'll do all different sports all year round, so everyone's not hooked on one sport. So that's one thing which I think we should really do more in the UK. But I think football starts August and it runs till May, and then you've got 2-3 months off where everyone's not done from playing football, and then straight back to football. And the same, I play rugby, coach rugby. It's exactly the same. We'll start rugby union in September. We don't finish until May. And you got a month off and you start pre-season again and you're going again. There doesn't seem to be any time there for anyone else to do or try any other sports, apart from giving one completely to go do something else.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good point, actually, what you both said there about playing different sports. And obviously it's benefited you, Andy, with doing rugby as well as doing football. I personally went from, the only sport I competed in was football until like over the last couple of years I started doing boxing. And I found that helped me tremendously with my football, things like stamina and like speed, running, and footwork, etc. So I think if more kids are doing more different varieties of sports, they're going to zone in themselves naturally and gravitate towards the sport they're best at. But all of those different sports are going to impact each other in a way that they're all going to give them attributes to make themselves better at that sport. If you just focus on one sport, you can kind of get tunnel vision with it and think you only have to do this, you only have to do that. Well, why not be creative, do different types of training? It's all going to benefit your game at the end of the day. There's no exercise that's bad exercise. So I think that's a very good point actually to make, is too many kids are just getting zoned in on football, or too many kids are just getting zoned in on rugby, or anything else. They need to be encouraged to have that variety. And then you're going to find the kids who gravitate to football will actually do it. But yeah, no, I think it's great at that point.
But just not getting at academies. I've seen a lot of good youngsters go in, and I've worked with some really good coaches, Lee Pope and Del Morgan, and the progression on some of the players that they've worked with has just been phenomenal. And not just footballing wise, but in confidence. So I think if you get the right coach, spot on. But I do feel that, and not just academies and grassroots, I think school as well, they sort of missed the sort of the basic fundamental movements that kids and running, jumping, just from a very early age. My feeling is that more of that should be incorporated into our football sessions, and like the physical literacy should come through a little bit more. But I think academies could be helped out in terms of game structures as well. So I think from my own experience, and it's only my own experience, it was quite hard getting fixtures for the under 8s and 9s. There wasn't really a regular structure for it. We had a lot of people working hard to get good fixtures from. We've been, talking to Everton and Stoke and a few Wrexham as well. But I think there should be a set fixture list for those teams as well to help them progress.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, it's not for 1 second that I don't disagree with academies. However, I think there should be an age limit. I can speak from experience with about 5 or 6 clubs where we've took grassroots teams to play academies, and the difference is you go for the 50-50, and those grassroots players will get back up and play for the ball. Now, those kids who are at academies will stay on that floor and will cry for the penalty, cry for the free kick. And I think it builds that sense of, like Chopper was saying the other day, there's got to be an element of street football. There's got to be an element of bottom level football as well as top level football. And when you integrate all that, I think that's what makes a player. I think if you throw them in the deep end too soon at academy level, it's when I say this, you do that. I think a lot of kids lose creativity and lose the ability to be a bit more relaxed and a bit more freestyled, as opposed to being directed the way they have to be taught.
Do you not think then that you were saying about some, in certain circumstances you've seen academy kids stay down and cry for the penalty or the free kick, and you've seen grassroots getting up? Do you not think that's maybe to do with an attitude then? That, with a status put around playing for academy, do you not think that maybe those kids then think, I play for an academy, so I'm right?
Personality.
Because they feel they're playing at a lower level, playing grassroots.
100%. I can say now that we've played a number of games with academies, everyone, and I said this in the last podcast, I'll say it again now. My favourite game we've ever played with Kevin United is Martin's team. And that's because they're average mixed, and they're all, no matter how capable both teams are, every player on that pitch puts 100% in. They're all fair, they all shake hands at the end, and it's all peaceful, fun football. And it's playing with your friends, which is what it's all about. I think you go to an academy and they're taught, do this, or you're coming off. Do this. You've got to do it this way. Pass the ball here. Do that. And I think that's when kids start to lose the ground on football. They sort of push to the way their coach wants.
they start to fit into that mould that individual academy has set out for them, rather than
and it'll be all well and good if they stay at that academy, but then if someone trains for Everton for 4 years and then goes to a different academy and they've got a different style, they don't fit in.
That's probably the same if you go at Grassroots, so you could have exactly the same as that. I remember when I was playing at Grassroots, I played for Coit for my last couple of years. We were never going to be world beaters, but I was playing with my mates and we absolutely loved it. We didn't have anything too serious. It was just one of the dads was one of the coaches. He was a good coach, but he didn't have too much on us. He was one coach to 20 lads, so we just more had fun. But then you could have a lad who's come to us. We had a lad come to us from Penakai who were doing really well, but he wasn't getting any game time. But he was totally different to what our lads were because he'd been that structured at Grassroots. Then come to Coit where we just wanted to have fun all the time. He struggled to fit in at first because his mentality was, I need to be serious, I need to do this, this and this. And then he's come here and it's like, I'm not saying we didn't care, but it was more, we can play football and have a laugh at the same time in training or whatever, when he'd been at a normal Grassroots team and no Grassroots team that were going for a league, but they were that structured, that's what he was at. So I don't think it's just at academy level, it can be at some Grassroots level depending on the coach.
I think I agree with that. It comes down to coaching styles. I think you've probably heard it a lot of times from different people. Football's like an art, and you can either tell them what to draw, give them the stencil, and go do this, or you can go, this is what I want, but do it however you want. Yeah. And I think the more freedom you give a player, the more they're able to express themselves and stand out from others.
Yeah, I think
that's what you need at a younger age as well, innit? You need players to be expressing themselves and realising of finding out what kind of personality they are on a football pitch and stuff like that, instead of being told what sort of personality they're going to have while playing. Now that can go with as well with people with positions wise, like we've discussed before, and it's one good thing which I enjoy with the Wrexham Girls Academy, that we never, obviously apart from a goalkeeper's a goalkeeper, but we never have one player who we put on every game saying, you're staying in strike and you're staying in right mid at under 10s, maybe at under 14s, yeah, because they're playing at Grassroots and looking at other academies maybe. And so they have to be a little bit more disciplined because they're trying to play at that position. But when we're playing at the younger age, we'll have a girl who start off in the first quarter or third, however we do the game, a centre-back, and she could end up in strike or centre-mid in the next time she goes on. Because you need to let them express themselves, and you need to realise, like you hear so many times of footballers that they started off at centre midfielders and they end up centre backs, or they started off as a striker. I think Rio Ferdinand started as a striker and he ended up being centre back in the end.
Did you?
They weren't stuck to one position. They expressed themselves a bit, but then they realised where they were best at. Instead of just being told you are a right back, you're going to train as a right back from the age of 7 until 17, until you give up.
I believe that was why Gerard Piqué left United, because he was at United as a striker and moved into centre-back and had a very successful career there. So, it can happen later on in your career as well as early on in your career where you naturally fit into a position.
Yeah.
Going back to what like Ethan said about like the academies sort of being, a bit strict. Yeah. But from my experience, it was only a brief encounter. I think if you get the right sort of coach there, he can let them sort of express themselves. And that's sort of my experience from coaching at academy. Yeah, there is the element of sort of dictated into one position, but I think it comes down to sort of your philosophy as well. I mean, I think you all said about different players going to different teams, and it sort of changes, but that sort of all comes down to each coach's philosophy. I think there's a lot of Chris Ramsey used to be at Spurs. He's listened to a couple of his podcasts and how he sort of changed the philosophy at Spurs. I think used to sort of be very important on the result, but he sort of threw that out the window, and it was all about challenging the individual and being dominant in the 1v1. So like he said, there'd probably be times where the younger ages would get stuffed by the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal, but it produced likes of Harry Kane and I should know all these, shouldn't I, being a Tottenham fan? But it produced a lot of sort of good youngsters that went into the first team. It was a natural progression. So I think it just comes down to your philosophy, doesn't it? I think if you're relaxed and you're not really concentrating on the result, and you can let them express themselves, let them be free. But certainly from what I experienced in academy setting, it was only with the younger ages. The coaches I coached with, to be fair, were spot on. But I know Ethan's saying as well, you get some other coaches as well where is the benefit of being an academy valid, or you could just have a good coach at Grassroots, couldn't you? But I think going back to the original question, about if you're a kid, I can only speak from Isaac and like the ones I've coached. I think they do want to, a lot of them do want to be an academy. I mean, it's seen as the elite for their level, isn't it? Obviously, and then talking about the ones we've got around the area, like TNS and Druids, even Flint. The facilities they've got and the structure that they've got there, the training. Sometimes it's 3 times, 4 times a week. Kids that age just want to play football, don't they? And if they can do it, at a stadium like TNS or Druids, it's it'll only benefit them. And again, I've seen some good coaches working at TNS and Druids. So I think a lot of it's philosophy. But I think going back to the original question, I think as a youngster, you just want to play, don't you? And I think the academies do offer them that more game time than the Grassroots can, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I kind of agree with what you said there, Martin, in the fact that I do think it is partly down to coaching as well. I know the academies I've worked with, I'm not going to name them. Some coaches I've worked at in academies, I've completely disagreed with their morals, to the point where there was one academy that I walked out of because I didn't understand that it was all about almost the money and we want this club to be here, but we don't care about the player. And I think that's possibly why I'm so much against it. I know, I'll say it now, that the lad I worked with, Chris at Stoke, was possibly one of the best managers I think I've ever come across. His philosophy was all about that kid is this good at this, but needs to work on this. And he would pick out an individual target for each of his players each month. And he said himself to me, he said it's very much about not competing against the rest of your team and becoming the best. It's about competing against yourself. If you can run 5K in 20 minutes and your mate does it in 25 minutes, he's not then going to try and beat your time. He wants to get less than 25 the next time. And you need to improve your best as opposed to competing. And yeah, it's self competitiveness. Compete against yourself, not against other people. And he was always very good at saying things like that to the kids. And to him, it was all about, what do the kids want? What do they need? What are they asking? He did that coaching style that I try and do, where rather than being shouting and dictating and telling them what to do, I like to keep it as not a friend's level, but like a nice calm
get the answers
level.
off them.
Yeah, so you've got the likes of, if a player's got a question or he's not sure why you've asked him to do something, he'll turn around and ask me, and I can explain it, as opposed to I'm not going to ask the coach because he'll shout at me for not listening. And I think that's what it comes down to. I think it's all about the communication and the level of respect between the coach, not just the players, but the parents as well. I think if they respect you and believe in you, you might do something that they don't know what's happening, but they'll go along with it because they trust you. And I do think it's based around the trust and the respect.
Well, you see it all the time. The most successful coaches are the ones who manage, not just manage the team. They're the ones who look at the individuals in the team and find the way to get the best out of them, rather than just saying, I want the whole team to aim towards this one goal. It's, I want you to focus on this, you to focus on that. And then they see the collective goal come towards come towards the end of the process. The best style is, I think, man management. Personally, some people find it, a better way of doing it with team management and trying to get everybody on the same sort of level ground. But realistically, you've got a team full of individuals. All of them have different strengths and weaknesses. All of them are at different levels of fitness, ability on the ball. They all need to be pushed individually. I'm a strong believer in that. I don't think there's any better way of doing it. I mean, the most successful managers who are, around in the last 20 odd years are man managers at top level and lower level.
Yeah, well, you say that. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and stuff recently, and Lee Fowler used to play for Wrexham. He said one of the best managers he ever played for was Dean Saunders when he came to Wrexham.
Yeah.
And he said it wasn't. He didn't do anything special. He said he was a great guy anyway. The best thing about him was his man management. He made every player in that Wrexham squad at the time feel £1 million because he just looked after them properly and used them to benefit each other. He signed players to benefit each other, and that's why Wrexham did quite well underneath him, getting to the playoffs and stuff. Because how well he managed the players, and he said players will run through a wall for a manager if they treat them right. If they don't treat them right, and they haven't got the time for the players. Players won't have time for it, and they'll just look at other clubs. And you probably have that at Grassroots as well. If you've got a manager who's got one thing that doesn't want to look after players are easy enough to jump off and go find a different club. If you look after your players and look after individuals, players will fight for you. Even at Grassroots level, they want to play for the coach, and they'll play for the lads because everyone's in the same. Have like the same energy towards the coach because everyone wants to play for them. That's where teams do well.
Egos get put aside when you man manage, don't they?
Yeah.
If you've got a team and you're just trying to get everybody on the same sort of playing field, they're all going to want to try and shine out, and their egos will get boosted, and they'll try and give themselves a bit of status and stand out from the crowd. Whereas if you're man managing, every single one of them is trying to push it. There's no room for ego on a team where you're man managed and everybody's being catered to individually, and they all want to, play for the manager, play for the team, play for each other.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I can say myself. When I first started coaching with Kevin down the road from me, the Grassroots team, I was spotted by Kev, the under 10s or 11s manager now, and he asked me to come and help originally while I was doing some stuff in the school because he seen me doing it and liked what I was doing. And when I first joined, I felt a bit awkward because I felt like it was all very much. He was quite down to earth with them all, and they knew when he was serious and they knew when he was having a joke. But the more I watched and learned off him, I realised that he's not just got the respect off the players, but all the parents and that, and all the other coaches at the club look at him as like the head coach of Kevin, because he's very, very honest but very fair as well. And I think it does come down to, it's not so much the team but the manager. I know he's managed to keep all his players since, when I was there. He's not really changed any players. He's kept the ones he's working with. Parents have stayed with him, stood by him. And even like the likes of me now looking at him, it's a respectable person. If you had a question that you needed answering about football, you would turn to someone like him. Or I'll put Martin in there as well. Martin knows himself. If I have a question, it's either him or Kev I'll contact. Yeah, don't look at the higher coaches. I look at the ones that I think do the best coaching. And I do think it's, now looking at it, I do think it's not down to Academy Grassroots. It's like Martin said, it comes down to the coach. If you have a good coach, you'll go far.
So to answer the question you previously asked, then it's down to the coaches rather than whether they're an academy or Grassroots. Then.
Yeah, we are about to get cut off. We've got less than a minute.
So if you want your kids to do well, put them in a team where you trust the coach rather than just the status of that.
Yes, come to Kevin United.
Rumbo.
Right, cheers for joining, guys. We are about to get cut off. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, all right, cheers, boys. Nice to meet you, James.